At the Piranha pitch party, entrepreneurs have no more than 5 minutes to convince one or more of the investors on the panel to schedule a follow-up meeting. In December 2014, our panelists were Steve Pytka, an individual angel investor, William Swiggart, chair of Beacon Angels, and David Verrill, chair of Hub Angels. Let's join the Piranha pitch party.
My name is Matthew. I'm the founder and CEO of Voxer. Who here likes making good decisions? Who here likes making decisions quickly? Who here has enough time for anything? Okay. So Voxer is a way to make better decisions quickly. And the way we do that, it's an instant polling tool. Now what I just did was an instant poll. But all I had was just looking at you and seeing hands in the air. That wasn't like nuanced, it wasn't quantified, it wasn't like I could come back and ask each one of you what you thought in more depth later. Voxer is a tool for a business to find out what the people on the other side of the screen think. In cases where you want nuanced information and you want it in a limited time interaction. So if you are interested in finding out what people think of your, in this case, like fashion designs, you can ask the people who look at this site, they can say, instead of just saying 1 to 5 stars or I love it or I hate it, that's a really limited metric. There are related metrics built into that one. So I could say, sure, I love this, but I would never wear it, which is probably true for some of the people here or their wives or whatever. And it's not appropriate for work, but maybe you could get away with it at play. And that's going to determine a very different answer than just saying 1 to 5 stars. And this is also nuanced information that's going to tell you a lot more about what you actually need to know, which is where should I market this to, who should I market it to? Everybody loves it, but nobody says they would wear it. Well, that's a problem. And hey, maybe the people who say they would wear it, they would only wear it to go out at night, and we're marketing it as business casual. So with one very simple instant click, click, click poll, I was able to find out very nuanced information about what people think. And then you get a whole dashboard. You'd be able to literally see in 3 dimensions, here's the people who said they thought it was totally formal, it's a great dress, and they actually would wear it. And boom, that's my target market. So this gives you a tremendous amount of metadata. Now I can look at all of my dresses and say, oh, these are the ones that people said it is hot, and I would wear it for casual. It works for almost any kind of content. This is one of our other early stage beta clients. It's an artist. He wants to know, do people love or hate his paintings? How much would they pay for them? And would they wear it to the, would they buy it for office or home? These scales are sliding, meaning I can go anywhere in between. It's not just a simple binary, but it's a 1 to 100 scale, although the end user doesn't see the 1 to 100. The reason this makes a difference is because, okay, for one thing, it's embedded right on the page. There's no separate stage that says, hey, would you like to take a survey? The answer is usually no. The barrier to entry of doing a gentle survey is much lower. The related dynamics means you're getting much more nuanced information. And the sliding scales means that it doesn't force you into dynamics that slow you down. And there are different angles to minimize biasing. Okay, so what's the economic value to the client? So if you're looking to get feedback on a product that you're looking to put out there, it turns out that our first paying clients are people more in a situation like this. They're doing sales demos at conferences. They have like 5 minutes or less. Somebody's at their booth. Hey, I just showed you my demo. What do you think of it? Here's a tablet with the answers right there on the screen. Boom, boom, boom. And now I just got much more nuanced information about you. Oh, who are you? Is one of the questions. And I have a big company. We're not so concerned about our computer security. Great. You're a less important customer than the next guy who said that they're. So there's a tremendous amount of differentiators there that allows it to have a tremendous amount of economic value for the client.
1 minute.
My name is Matthew. I did a 360 employee review system at Goldman Sachs. I also did MTV and VH1 reality TV show websites where the voting determined content online. So I've kind of gone top end and bottom end as far as that goes. Our enterprise sales guy was at Avid, video production software from pre-product all the way to IPO. We have a social media person. We have a great tech team that's actually in Israel. And so let's see. And yeah, we're just got our, this is our minimum viable product. Our actual direction of design is something more like this. So we raised friends and family capital. We got our MVP out there about 2 months ago. We've done a bunch of testing, and now we're iterating towards a much bigger launch. We just signed our first paying client, and so we're at the seed stage.
Thank you very much.
Oh wait, and the last thing, because there's not enough time for all of you. Please go to Walkster.com Meta and give me a survey, because I can't hear all your questions. It's actually a Walkst survey.
Good job. Actually, good job.
So how do you know the demographics of the people on the other side of the screen? Are you putting a cookie on them for grabbing them later on? Or?
Yes, it tracks geodata, IP, and if you're the kind of company that tracks anything else about your company, it's very easy to fit them together. And in a lot of cases, there's a place where you're logged in and you walks.
And are the 3 questions limited, or can I go to different phases of questions on the same image, for example?
Yes, if you're the game master, so to speak, you can choose the parameters, you can customize them, you can put 6, 9, 12 parameters around the same object and just continue the poll, so to speak.
And last one for me, what's sort of your special sauce that makes this defensible?
So it took a lot longer to build than we initially thought. It's not so simple. Our understanding of the problem, I think, is very different because we want this to be embedded on everyone else's site. So the only kinds of companies that could even possibly conceive of this and execute it are the kinds of companies that want everybody to go to their website or their platform. We are a tool for everybody to use.
What's your revenue model?
So for websites that want feedback, it's a subscription model. For events and polls like that, like at a sales conference, it's a per event charge. And in a lot of the business uses, like intra-business, if you're trying to use it inside your business to vet your sales leads, then it's a license or a white label.
Do you feel most of your business is going to come from conferences and exhibitions?
That's our first vertical where we've gotten traction. I think the bigger verticals, Salesforce flew us out to Dreamforce because they're interested in having this as a value-added tool for sorting sales leads. So I think that the direction of more like marketing automation and supporting, when you have a lot of people's qualitative thinking, you want to turn the qualitative into quantitative inside a business flow, that's going to be the highest price point.
At the conferences, do you go direct to the individual exhibitors, or you go through the conference and they provide it in as a service to everyone?
We're trying to do both. The first people who've approached us are actually the exhibitors who are the companies looking to sell their product, doing their own private conferences. So that's the first place where we got traction.
So does your system work only with pictures?
No, it works with text also. Didn't really get to fully show you, but you can walks like, it can be political, it can be statements, see whether people agree with or disagree with. It can be pitches. We actually did one pitch event where we had people walks a bunch of startups. Hey, is this a long shot or a safe bet? Is this a great ROI or not so great ROI? Do I love it or hate it? And is this my area or not? So we could weight the answers.
I guess I don't really understand how your great idea can be a freestanding company as such. I doubt you can answer that now, but it's a fantastic system. How is it a company?
The product fits in a lot of different areas, and if you can sell a product consistently, then I guess you have a company.
It's a service, though, really.
It's a service and a product, I think.
Okay.
Okay, panel. Got your little cards ready?
Ready?
In or out?
I'm in. I'd like to hear more. Yeah, I am as well. I'd like to hear more.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's a great product. I'm skeptical, but I'm in.
All right, good morning. My name is Mark. I'm from a privately held biotech company called Endocellutions. We have over $1 million invested so far, but we still are pre-revenue. And I'm here to talk about our cure for diabetes. Here's what we've done so far with that money. We have developed some products and we filed for some patents. We're currently in our second round of office actions, and those patents are looking very likely to issue. It's partly what brought me here today, because we're getting close. The other and more important thing that we've done is we've treated 2 human patients both lived and are both doing well. The first one is insulin-free. Hey, that's a real question for med device. Yes. One is currently insulin-free, and the other has cut their insulin use in half. Of course, we don't have FDA clearance, so these treatments took place in the Dominican Republic by a Dr. Lorano. I'm sure probably no one has heard of him, but he has treated professional baseball players, probably most notably one called Bartolo Colon, who was a Cy Young Award winner. He's currently playing for the Mets on a 2-year, $20 million contract, so the therapy does work. Dr. Lorano has also treated many other professional athletes. So how do we do this, and where do these cells come from, and why are we unique? Generally speaking, most companies are focused on expanding particular cell types. Cells are grown in a lab, and then they're used to treat patients. There are a few challenges with this approach. Number one, it's very difficult to create a lab environment that will produce healthy cells reliably and repeatably. Number two, once you have these cells and you inject them, patients are at risk for something called graft versus host disease. And believe it or not, that's when the cells you've injected actually attack the person they're in. Not a good ending. Also, it's a very expensive regulatory path to get these stem cell therapies through the FDA. So based on these three things, I believe cultured cells are a flawed approach to treating diseases, not just diabetes, any disease, and I happen to think I know how to fix it. The answer lies in the placenta. There's a lot of research out there, and the placenta is an amazing organ. I'm going to focus on two things and how it fixes the problems that I just mentioned. Number one is its ability to regulate cell growth. As a fetus grows, bone, muscle, many other cell types grow very easily. I would say this is nature's version of a perfect cell culture. Number two, and almost more importantly, the placenta protects the child from the mother's immune system. In other words, the mother's body does not attack this growing fetus. And even though it's a completely different genetic thing and different blood types, it lives. So the placenta is something that prevents graft versus host disease. So that probably all sounds very interesting, and I know I'm just kind of skimming the top here, but what do we do with this knowledge and how do we monetize it? We have a single-use, patent-pending disposable for processing placental tissue, and we also have a pending method patent to treat diabetes. All of this at point of care without cell culture. The business model for single-use disposables is a very proven one. I've been in this industry for 20 years as a product development guy. I've been in R&D, I've been in manufacturing, I've done clinical support, and in startups, heck, I even take out the trash when you need to. But of course, you can't do it yourself. So we got a couple of people we're working with, one by the name of Jack Bonacera. He has been a clinical and regulatory expert for years. He has gotten implantable devices through the FDA. He's done CE marking. So he will be a critical part of this team when we deal with reimbursements and FDA clearance. Another person we're working with is Andy McGillicuddy, who is our CFO and primary researcher. And these are people that I've worked with in the past. So that's the team, what we've done, and where we hope to go. But there's one more piece to this puzzle. And again, I'm going to reiterate, regulatory. Does anyone know how many stem cell therapies are currently approved with the FDA? Billions of dollars of research are into this, everyone knows that. One that I know of, and it's right on their website, it's a company called Hemacord. So the real takeaway from this business is that I believe not only have we solved the graft versus host disease and the cell culture problems, I believe we have a regulatory path where we are one 510K away from getting a profitable company, and from there we'll fund a clinical study. But if you want to know that, I urge you to book a meeting so I can bring my regulatory guy and my science officer with me, and we'll tell you the rest of the story. Thank you for your time.
So, interesting approach, just in terms of your presentation. You know, we live and die by PowerPoint, and when you don't give a PowerPoint, people sort of get thrown off for a few seconds, but hopefully all of us listened to what you were saying rather than what you were trying to envision for us. Pretty interesting idea. I'd like to know a few more key things. You talked about the things that you have done, but it'd be interesting for me to know, do you have a PhD, an MD? What companies have you worked for? How long have you been doing this? The details like that would be particularly helpful, because everything is on you, particularly with a science-oriented company like this.
That makes sense. You want the answer, or you're just giving me a yes? I myself am a product development guy. I've been in startups my entire life. Do not have a PhD. I have worked in companies right now. One of the day jobs I have is I work for a surgical company. I'm a director of R&D there, working on medical robots. Prior to this, I was at a company called Harvest Technologies, where I was in the senior R&D crew, and we worked on products for PRP. That's kind of how I got interested in stem cells. I've actually had myself injected. I've sought out doctors and fixed a ski injury in my knee, so I truly believe in this therapy. There you go. Is it fixed or needs fixing?
It was fixed on Thursday.
There you go.
Stem cells?
No stem cells.
What are the steps that it's going to take to get full approval for this to go out and start selling it and using it?
That's a great question. I guess the shortest answer I can come up with is that we plan to treat this kind of like a bone marrow transplant. In other words, there's someone who has a need and they need bone marrow from a donor. Right now, that marrow is stored, right? So our approach to this is there's births in every hospital all the time. Our ultimate goal is to marry the births with the diabetic people and process this within 24 hours. And what that will do, so in other words, someone comes in with diabetes, and there's a birth going on in the hospital. It'll take some logistics and planning, but within 24 hours, we hope to bring those placental cells that we've processed in our device.
Is that phase 1?
Yes. Oh, for clinical trials? We're not in clinical trial now, no. Getting to revenue.
You have to.
Yeah.
Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 before you can go out and sell this.
No. The device we have now, a lot of people, it's like the cord blood industry. There's already devices and things to collect and store cord blood. And we've been talking with people, Blue Horizon Stem Cells, and people locally in Boston. Our placental processing device, once we get this 510K I mentioned, that can be used and sold immediately, and then at the doctor's discretion, as they practice medicine, they can determine where and how they use the cells that we help them collect.
Are you affiliated with any hospitals right now? Are you talking with ones where you'll start this, Beth Israel, Dana-Farber?
Nothing official, no.
So how does the placenta generate a pancreas?
Excellent question. It does not regenerate a pancreas. And I think, for those familiar with diabetes, a lot of the treatments are to add islets, which I think is a very flawed approach because your body killed your initial islets anyway, so just putting more in is only going to exacerbate the problem. Diabetes is an inflammatory disease, so by putting the placental cells in, which are pluripotent, they basically reprogram your body's immune system and just allow the cells that are there to continue to grow naturally. So it's a reprogramming of your immune system. And it's a direct injection right into the duodenum.
Biotech jujitsu.
Yes. I call it taking advantage of Mother Nature.
And are placentas being harvested now for any reason?
Yes, but not like the blood banking industry.
Okay, it sounds like there's a lot more information than you want to have.
There is.
Okay, gentlemen, in or out?
In.
Okay,
Thank you, everyone.
Steve?
Yeah, the reason I'm out is not because I don't have an interest in it. I had a personal interest. My wife went through 2 stem cell transplants. The only reason I'm out is I really don't know much in this area and couldn't be of much help to you, but I think the idea is great.
Thank you.
Great job.
I'm Tony Bolzan. I'm one of the co-founders of Fraen Mechatronics, and we have developed a patented electric torque motor which is used to manipulate the valves of turbochargers and EGRs in car engine systems. This project began at Fraen Corporation by a team who produced 116 million of a different kind of electric motor, these stepper motors, which are used to turn the pointers on your vehicle dashboard instruments. It was spun out, this project was spun out, the torque motor project was spun out because this program ended and Fraen's R&D budget was committed to another project which was integrated into several different operations there. So this is a standalone project. They decided to spin this out and raise outside capital. And we have raised $720,000 of the $800 seed round we were looking for. And we are also proceeding with our customers. So I'll tell you a little bit about this product. This torque motor is 30% better than its competitor. It's lighter and it's cheaper. And what it's used for is the valves and turbochargers and exhaust gas recirculation systems which manipulate the air either going into the engine or coming out and going back into the engine for a second burning. The market for these two systems is growing, in large part because engine makers need to improve efficiency, fuel efficiency, and reduce emissions because government regulations are increasing worldwide. The US has raised their regulations and other countries around the world are doing the same. Now, we have several different sizes of this motor. They're going to sell for between $20 and $35. And give you a sense of where the market is today, there was only one company making torque motors for the engine systems in the world. There are 50 million of these engine systems out there. The one company, a Swiss company called Sonspas, sells 4 million of these a year, and that is growing. The engine system market is growing in market share of the total automotive market, and the automotive market itself is also growing. So these growing segments are stacking upon each other to make for a large opportunity. This motor, as I said, performs 30% better. The reason it does is because it's designed differently from the competitor's motor. This motor provides 110 degrees of torque, which is rotational force, and the competitor's motor only provides 72 degrees. This allows for it to be lighter, smaller, cheaper, and to give the turbocharger maker a little more flexibility in how they configure their system. Laboratory tests have shown it also lasts twice as long as the competitor's motor. And we've tested it that it's twice as fast as the competitor's torque motor and is 5 times faster than other electrical devices used to manipulate these valves. And so we anticipate taking some of that market from them. Right now, we are in product development talks with Delphi. Their Korean unit handles EGR systems for them worldwide. They have given us a product plan where they are going to integrate us into their existing EGR starting in 2016, January 2016. They want to launch and buy 300,000 of these a year or more. That will allow us to start this program profitably. And we're also talking to Voller, an EGR maker in Germany, who was recently acquired by BorgWarner. We're dealing with both companies now, and we have about a dozen other companies that are very interested in this project. Once we complete the seed round, we have another A round on the horizon, which will get us all the way through completing customer activities, order, factory build out, and product launch. And that's all the equity we anticipate needing going forward. And just a little bit of projections, we're looking 5 years from now, 40 million in revenue, $5 to $6 million in profit. And we're an LLC, and we plan profit distributions to shareholders without double taxation. But we're also looking at a secondary way for investors to reap rewards. And this space has a lot of consolidation. The automotive drivetrain market is consolidating on a regular basis, and we anticipate we'd be an attractive takeover target from a
Thank you very much.
customer or
Good job.
competitor.
Good job.
So I've got two different types of questions. The first set are around the structure of the spin-out, and does the parent own any of the company? What about intellectual property? Is it signed? And things of that nature. And the other is, Sort of back to Bill's comment earlier about the first presenter, this seems like a one-product company. You didn't talk about product extensions, you talked about market extension, but not product extension. And is this only for internal combustion engines?
Let's see. So I'll start with the first question before. The first question, the relationship between the former parent and this company. It does not own any shares. The owners of the parent own some, am I enough? Okay. The owner of the parent owns some shares of this company. They have minority stake. No one has a majority controlling interest, so it's truly a collaborative effort. The patent has been sold to this company, so it has full ownership of it, full control. See, I'm going through. Can you ask the questions one at a time?
Well, that's good enough for the first half. The second half are more, are there product extensions and so on and so forth?
Oh, yes. There are. 5 minutes is hard to talk about those. Barely got this in. But there's also, we also have developed a, they call a brushless DC motor, brushless direct current motor, which it's paired with a gearbox, and that can be used for larger applications. Think, dump trucks, steam, backhoes, things that have a lot more, lot larger engines and have a lot more torque requirements. That's been developed by the same inventor who invented this. He's selling a related version of it to a company that's not an automotive. We have full rights to the automotive uses of that and vehicle, any kind of vehicle use of that. And we also think we might want to get back into this business. Patent is up on this. We acquired a patent license that expired. That's sort of the backstory of this. We made the product better than the licensor made the product, so they decided not to renew us. Patent is up in a year, and we have customers that already want us to get back in this stepper motor business, which is we've been doing for forever. So there is a suite of products we have anticipating.
Good answer.
How long does the patent run that you have currently?
Through 2029.
Do you have any other ancillary patents? Have you picket fence around this one, or is that your singular patent?
We filed a continuation, which is still pending, to broaden the scope of the claims. And we've also filed a patent, which has not yet been reviewed by the Patent Office, for a rotary cam that goes on the end of this to fully take advantage of the 110 degrees of torque.
What do you feel is your unfair competitive advantage?
The unfair competitive advantage is really no one else has developed a motor that that goes across this full swing. Just the perspective they took in designing this, and the patent is pretty much a very good blocking mechanism for this technology. And our competitor, we've heard from at least a dozen of our potential customers that they are tired of doing business with them. They're inflexible. Their price is very sticky. They will not come down on price. And we believe there is an opportunity for us to certainly take a share of the market. Automotive industry, everyone along the supply chain loves to have at least two suppliers because no one wants to be beholden to one company. And companies are very eager for us to get in this business. Even if they only give us a portion of it, it's actually left out. Delphi buys 1 million torque motors from our competitor. They're looking to give us 300,000. That's a good start. We don't need the whole million. And many companies like that will continue to dual source. So, but the volumes are there for both.
One last question. How large is the industry, and looking at it as an exit, how many doors are there to leave? How many potential acquirers are there? Can you count them on one hand, or are there multiple?
No, I'd say for almost all of our customers would be large enough to make an acquisition. We're talking $100 million to $10 billion of these engine system makers. There's probably 2 to 3 dozen of those. As far as there's one competitor for this particular product, but there's probably a dozen or 2 electric motor makers who probably would like to get into this space. If you think about even a company like Johnson Controls.
Can you point to some marquee acquisitions in this industry?
Yes, the acquisition of Voller, the German EGR maker that we're talking to, by Borg-Warner, that's 1 degree upstream from us, but there's been a bunch of them.
What was the price?
It was a private transaction, but
So you don't know?
It was between 100 and 200 million.
What was the multiple on revenue?
I don't know that.
Gotta figure that one out.
Speculation on multiple on revenue.
Gotta figure that one out.
Yeah.
Okay, gentlemen, it is time. Bill?
Oh,
All
all right, that was my question. But you, I mean, you talked about throwing off revenue, distributions out of an LLC, which is very nice. It's atypical for organized angels to do that. Maybe Steve would like it though, if he wants some revenue stream. But you, or loss stream, yeah, losses are can be beneficial. The more losses, the better, right? But you say you are open to being acquired. Is that so?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're actively open.
I mean, you're part of a larger organization at one point. How do you guys feel about being part of another one? Are you cool with that, or do you like being on your own?
No, that's part of the plan. It's not a requirement to help investors get their financing back, get their investment back, and make a profit. But it's definitely in our plan.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So you're open to that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, gentlemen, it's time. Steve, you have one last
Yeah, to
question?
follow up on Bill's question, how many small companies building singular parts like this have been acquired in the automotive industry?
I don't have that data.
Okay.
But you can get it to them, right?
Yes.
I'm out, not because I don't have a good impression of you or I dislike the product idea. I think you can go about funding this company in a slightly different way. I like your small raise with an LLC, but as soon as you get a contract, you can go more of a debt financing, right? You don't necessarily need to give up equity for that. I think the capital requirements are probably pretty low for the company, and I just don't think that I can talk myself into believing that I'm going to get 10 or 20 times my money out of this company, which doesn't make it a bad investment, it just makes it not a fit for our portfolio.
Steve, in or out?
I'd be interested in learning more about it.
Okay.
And Bill, we know you're in, right?
I actually like the. It seems like a relatively. I mean, I agree with David that maybe 10 to 20x isn't projectable, but maybe the risk-reward ratio justifies an investment. So I'm in.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Christo. I'm the founder of Dukins. Dukins is a fully bootstrapped company by myself. Basically, what I'm kind of going to talk to you today about is the Amazon food ordering. What Dukins has actually built and what we were doing is giving people the ability to order from any restaurant or food truck from their phone or their computer. But before we dive into things, let me just tell you a little bit about myself. Basically, I was born here in Boston. My parents are both Greek immigrants. They had a food distribution company here, provided supplies to hundreds of Greek restaurants across Mass. So I was involved in the business probably starting at the age of about 7 years old. So right now, I degree in software engineering. I've been working years in tech, and still have a lot of strong ties within this Greek restaurant community. It's kind of hard to break away from it, to be honest. So around 2010, I started seeing some of the food ordering services like Grubhub and Foodblur kind of gain a lot of traction. And I saw a lot of fundamental flaws in their business model, and especially in their technologies. So if you look at them, they're all identical. They're all built for single unit independent restaurants, which are all family run businesses. They're actually going after the same market share, they compete for the same user, and the same restaurants are actually listed on the same sites. So in addition, they're also built in a pre-mobile and social era. So the first step to kind of starting this Amazon of food ordering is just break down the market a little bit. So chain restaurants own 41% of the market share. Independents dominate with 58% market share, and food trucks only have less than 1%. But that less than 1% is valued at over $1.2 billion. The second step was to build the Dukins food ordering platform, which accommodate all three segments, business and technical requirements. The third step was to get some traction. So what we did is we decided to focus on chain restaurants and food trucks for a couple of reasons. First of all, food trucks provide data that is currently unprecedented in any other of the segments. I'm going to get into those details in a little bit, but also Grubhub, who's the market leader, they currently can't accommodate those two segments. So there's a lot of opportunity for us to go down that direction. And what we did for the chain restaurant segment is we built a white label app that gives a branded online and mobile presence for a restaurant. We currently have 3 restaurants in Boston. We've processed over $50,000 in orders in 2 years. For the food truck segment, we created What the Trucks. It's actually the only food truck ordering, it's funny, isn't it? It's actually the only food truck ordering service in the entire country. We're actually positioned right now to dominate this $1.2 billion market because there really is no competitor. It's actually quite a difficult space to get into for a couple reasons. One is that the real estate on a food truck is the most expensive per inch. They can't accommodate any massive systems, integrations, heavy POS devices. And in addition, there is tremendous power in this data. So let me give you an example. So food trucks are kind of like the disruptors in the quick service restaurant market, as we've all noticed through movies right now and shows like the Food Truck Wars and the Food Network. Also, they vend in locations where there are no restaurants. They vend in locations where there's saturation of restaurants. They vend here at Constant Contact, specifically, every day. Also, they're known for their culinary innovations. They set these foodie trends. So just give you an example of what I'm talking about. Say we have a chain restaurant, and they're using our white label app for their online ordering and their mobile ordering. They would have access to the food truck data and could answer certain questions like, where should I build my next restaurant? What's the next foodie trend? Who's ordering pizza? Why aren't they ordering it from me? And just to remember, all the data is owned by Dukins, and Salesforce is the analytics engine behind everything. So let's just break down the numbers to see what's going on here. Let's take, for an example, 1,000 food trucks receiving 5 orders a day from What the Trucks at an average ticket of about $11 an order. Within a year, we would have processed over $20 million in orders with a gross margin of 10%. Let's take a look now at the market leader, Grubhub. They currently only have a 5% market penetration. Their current revenue is about $137 million last year, and they're valued at over $2 billion. And it's just that this industry is at its infancy right now, and the market potential is massive. See, Dukins is positioning itself by focusing on these 2 segments to disrupt the third and largest segment, independent restaurants, with a product from the beginning that was designed for this specific purpose. Now, we're not just going to compete in this as another food ordering service, but we're going to win.
You didn't bring up samples of food.
Oh, no, but I brought you the device for square inch that'll actually solve all these problems right here. This little thing is actually a 3G, USB, 2G, Wi-Fi, LAN, and Ethernet port printer that can actually sit in a truck, connect to our service to accept, receive orders, and in addition, in the future, probably connect to POS devices as well to process everything for the trucks.
Okay, Bill.
So that was your question, right, Dave?
No.
The sort of the classic definition of an invention is the combination of 2 unrelated things into a new product, and you seem to have done that in 2 services.
Is that a queen with technology?
Yeah, whoever heard of that? Right?
Exactly.
No, the food truck business with online ordering. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
Go.
Yeah, having been in the business of collecting data from restaurants once, it was an absolute dirty business. The hardest part was collecting data. Connecting to the point of sale system was an absolute bear we never wrestled down. But the point is that if you're looking at it from a data standpoint, no one's going to pay for it. They won't use it except for Cheesecake Factory that has 5 day parts, and they use data. Everyone else, they want orders. I think your major business here, what I see, is driving business to food trucks, which I think would be phenomenal.
Yep.
That no one else is doing it. It's something that's up and coming, and it seems like you already have a leg up in that business. And where I would see the upside on this is to sell it to them as, I'm going to increase your orders.
And that's exactly what we're doing. It's kind of a 2-part. Within the data, you're not only increasing the orders, but the real estate market is quite important as well. Because you actually have locations that have zero coverage, so you don't collect any of that data. Not to say that any chain restaurant's gonna make a decision solely on this data, but in addition, you have the data of who's ordering what, and new customer acquisitions, and identifying, different pieces like that, and triangulating through different locations. So I'll give you an example. Say downtown Boston, Milk and Kibbe and Pearl and Franklin. Pearl and Franklin, people order pasta. Milk and Kibbe, people order tacos. I don't know why. They're like next to each other. But that's what we're kind of seeing. But we're seeing the same user that orders tacos on Pearl and Franklin orders it in Milk and Kibbe. So that user is validated as a person who likes tacos. And you could really help provide some of that information to
You're
the restaurant.
I think one of the major points that I would sell to a vendor, food vendor, truck vendor, is the ease of this thing, that the order's going to come in, and the biggest headache people have when you go to a food truck is you've got to wait in line.
Yes.
And you're at lunch hour, you want speed. Speed is what I think you can bring if you can integrate that whole process.
Yep.
Place the order, pay for the order, come in, give them a number, and take your bag away.
And one above that, actually, when the order comes in.
Expensive.
Oh, sorry.
David.
I'll sort of get the voting started, because and apologies for the Greek.
Sorry.
I'm Greek, so I can.
I see it, fair enough.
I'm out. I sort of was interested until you picked up that big machine. The food trucks are using smartphones with Square, and all of that data should be available. They don't need to print anything. They don't want to print anything. And I don't really know why you need that particular device. I'll talk with you afterwards,
Fair enough.
but I'm basically out.
That's fair enough.
I'm in, but I still would like to know how you're going to solve that problem, because it's huge and I never could solve it.
Actually, just to respond to your device and POS, a lot of the food trucks specifically, they still actually write on little pieces of paper. And they like pieces of paper because the people that work on trucks don't actually know how to use these devices. I'm not trying to say anything bad about those people, but.
Well, you gotta have your hands free while you're cooking,
Yes.
so you look at the
And
slips.
it just,
Have
the
you
slip
been to
goes out.
Clover? Have you been to Clover before?
Yes, I have. But Clover is not your traditional food truck, nor is it a traditional type of environment.
It will be.
Maybe, hopefully, but until then, the slip of paper is what people use.
I didn't hear enough about market size, so I'm out.
Okay.
I'm Bruce Bacca. My product in my company is FileBridge. And FileBridge creates a seamless connection between the storage platform you have in-house for your file data and the Microsoft Azure cloud. Let me back up and tell you why that's important. So about 5 or 6 years ago, Microsoft realized that the ability to run applications in the cloud was an existential threat, particularly with Google Docs, because desktop operating systems and desktop applications is their bread and butter. And so they launched a project to build what is now the Microsoft Azure cloud. And it's come out pretty well for them, because Satya was the guy who was in charge of the project, and he's now the guy in charge of the company. And Microsoft, being an applications-oriented company, has really done some brilliant work in the back end with Windows 2012, to the point where if you have an application running in your office on Windows 2012, you can in fact seamlessly migrate it to the cloud without dropping a bit, disconnecting a user, or anybody seeing any of what's going on. And that's a great solution for applications, but applications are only half the story. If you look at corporate digital assets, about 80% of most corporations' digital assets aren't application data, they're file data. The Word documents you create, the Excel spreadsheets you create, the PowerPoints, the MRIs, the oil and gas survey maps, the video surveillance that the camera took on the front door when we walked in. And so Microsoft's already written solution, the Windows solution, solves half of the problem. What we need is the solution to the other half of the problem. How do you get your file data up into the cloud as well? And the good news is, if you're an enterprise customer, a corporate customer, it's very worthwhile for you to do that. So with moving your apps to the cloud, you get flexibility, performance, scalability, all sorts of interesting things for which you might actually pay more money. when you move your file data to the cloud, you save money, and you save it by the boatload. So if you do it naively, you probably save half of the cost. If you do it carefully, you probably save 2/3 to 80% of the cost. The target market for doing this are companies that are big enough to have enough file data to matter. That's companies with 100 or more employees. There's about 700,000 of those in the United States. There's about another 800,000 of those in the EU. So we've got a target market of about 1.5 million companies. The opportunity to do this, we've been working carefully with Microsoft for years. In fact, I've known those guys forever. And on the team, we've got the Microsoft Regional Director for the Northeast. We've got the guy who founded Microsoft's Partner of the Year worldwide in 1997. We've got an Aegis Missile Systems developer who's now a Windows internal god. So we've been working with an all-star cast and Microsoft to create this solution. They only opened the door last month. And during the course of last month, we've gotten the bids into the cloud. They're Microsoft certified. They're available in the Microsoft marketplace. The technology exists and runs today. We don't yet have any paying customers because it only started running a few days ago. Our go-to-market strategy is to go to market the same way Microsoft goes to market, which is through their reseller channel. We've recruited their top reseller in the East, a company called Champion. Champion has already migrated 3,000 businesses to Office 365. And so they're sitting there waiting for the go to start working with those businesses to migrate their file data. Microsoft is on board with this to the point where starting in January, they're going to launch a marketing program entirely at their expense, which will cost them $20,000 to $40,000. So Microsoft is squarely behind what we're doing. And it takes about 56 statistically average customers, and I'll tell you what that means later, for us to achieve $1 million in gross revenue after Champion has taken their commission. So it really is a very profitable business. It really is a very scalable business because the scale comes from Microsoft and their channel. And the reason I'm here and talking to you is because I need your help to meet the demand that Microsoft and organizations like Champion are going to create. Thank you.
Good job.
So what's your exit strategy?
I think there are several possibilities. A good possibility is that Microsoft will ultimately want to own this thing. And I've had a relationship with them long enough to know that's a twisty turn kind of path. But there are plenty of portfolio companies out there like Symantec who would be delighted to own this thing because they're part of the group that's going to start losing business as we migrate more of the file data into the cloud. Because it eliminates the need for backup, it eliminates the need for archive. And so the guys like Symantec and Commvault and stuff who are in that space would also be target acquirers.
Do you have any contacts with Good Technology?
No, I recognize the name, but I don't know anybody there.
What is it that you do in very short, concise statement is unique, and how can you protect that in the future?
The thing that makes this interesting and unique and different, if you look at like the Dropboxes, they have a repository, but they have no mechanism to grab anything you already have and bring it to their repository. What we have ties into the storage platforms you already have, be it Windows, NetApp, EMC, and creates a seamless environment. So that if you want to move all of your stuff to the cloud, part of your stuff to the cloud, just like with the Windows operating system, no one ever sees what went on. The users still go to the same place they always went. They still do the same things they always did. They still have the same active directory security that they always had. It's just a seamless connection from whatever your on-premise infrastructure is into the cloud. And we have patents that are issued that protect what we're doing.
What does your crystal ball tell you about the capital requirements of the business sort of now and over the longer term to get you to exit?
So I think our capital requirements are comparatively modest because the big scale out comes from Microsoft in the back end and their infrastructure, and the big scale out on the customer facing side comes from the reseller community. So to get us to sort of the first point where we might even be over the hump, $1 million or less. If we're not over the hump at that point, The reason is the calculus of moving data, because the pipes are only so big. And so even though the customers sign up, they can only move so much so fast, and they get billed for what's actually there, not for their intention. And so if we came in for a second round, it would be because the mechanics of the flow are slower than we anticipate. But we don't need an army to do this. The technology already built, it doesn't need anything that it doesn't have. It should be prettier, but it doesn't need anything that it doesn't have. It's just about the mechanics of getting customers on board.
Any other questions? Okay, panelists, in or out?
So I don't really understand your business model because I don't have a lot of experience with that area. My impression is that you're dealing with some huge players and it would be easy for them to roll over on you and squash you, but that's my naive view, so I'm out.
Okay, thank you.
It sounds very interesting, but I think for the same reasons, it's not an area of expertise that I have. I'd be glad to talk to you, but I'm out.
Okay, I'd love to talk to you.
I'd say the same thing. This is not a sort of a specialty area of ours. I would suggest that you talk with Common Angels. It's really a bunch of software focused people, and I think this is kind of right in their sweet spot. Also, you know, when we sort of sit back and have a beer at the end of the day in our hub strategy sessions, and you try to think of, okay, where's the next big opportunity so that you can find a wave to follow in the marketplace. I think the cloud wave has sort of gone by from an outsized return perspective, from an investment perspective. But your business sounds pretty easily funded. You know, as you put it, the capital requirements are modest. So I think there's probably some capital out there for you. You just need to, you know, segment the market and go after people who really have knowledge about that space.
Good morning, I'm Tammy Palazzo, and I'm one of the co-founders of T3 Interactive. Earlier this year, we launched a product called Presenter. The mission of T3 Interactive is to really change the way people are learning, and we're doing that by leveraging innovative and emerging technologies that changes the learning experience. We launched Presenter this year, which is focused on presentation and communication skills, which means no pressure right here for me giving this presentation, by the way. We launched that because our team comes from that world. We come from learning and development, we come from HR, we also come from technology. And we saw a great opportunity in this space to fill a void that exists. Currently, learning and focused primarily on adult learning and corporate learning has two main ways of being delivered. One is through live instruction and the other is through e-learning. And we saw an opportunity to create what we call a new lane of learning, which is sensor-based learning. The problem that we found in the marketplace is that right now our customers really have only one option for communication skills training, and that is live instruction. And there's three main issues with that, one being cost, the other being scale, and the third being the sustainability of the learning. So when we built our company, we sort of built this platform saying, okay, we can start with this communication skills product and obviously go on from there. But let's focus on this and see what we can do with it. What we know about the problem is that from a cost perspective, right now, to offer a presentation skills or a communication skills learning program in the workplace, it's about $12,000 to $15,000 for 1 day of learning. And that's about 10 to 15 people that are doing that. So from a scalability perspective, what you can imagine, to be able to train a sales force or to train anybody who's in a customer-facing role or an emerging leader, the amount of training programs that you would have to offer to be able to accommodate that audience would be enormous. And of course, the cost would be enormous. The third piece, the third problem, is really the problem that is most significant, which is the sustainability of the learning. What we hear from our clients all the time is, it's great, you come in, you give a day-long program, I'm sure many of you have been through it, and you walk away, and then what do you do with it? What we know is after 3 to 6 months, you've lost 85 to 90% of what you've learned. So when we designed Presenter, the idea is that we created a software-based tool that leverages sensor technology. And what it does is it reads your body, and it gives you that real-time feedback the same way that I would as a facilitator. It enables the individual to get measured on body language, eye contact, voice quality, all the things that we would want to be able to measure as trainers, but you can do it anywhere, anytime you want, and as frequently as you want to allow the learning to continue. Excuse me. The other thing that we're offering is scoring. For the first time, we're putting metrics. We're putting a quantitative measurement to something that has traditionally been looked at in a very subjective way. And this is really important for our customers because it allows them to be able to put metrics, the all-important ROI, to something that traditionally does not have ROI attached to it. When we launched the product this year, we had a two-pronged go-to-market strategy. We obviously have our own customers from years of working in learning and development, so we went directly to our customers. In addition, we decided to partner with training companies who were already out there offering training to use this as a supplement to what they were offering. So we were able to immediately scale our sales, excuse me, beyond what we could do as 3 partners. Right now what we're doing is we're looking to really grow the business. So what we're focusing on from a funding round is a way to, number one, increase what we're doing with the software, so to add more to the software in terms of learning, to be able to add more products to our mix, as well as to add to our team, build our sales force, and build our engineering staff. Thank you.
How's it work?
How does it work? Well, right now what we use a Microsoft Kinect sensor. It runs on your laptop. You set up the Kinect. You basically stand in front of it. You give your presentation. I practice on my Kinect. You give your presentation, and then you can play back your video. You can get feedback while you're doing it, so it can tell me, is this on, by the way? It can tell me if my voice quality is good. It captures things like ums, uhs, so's, actuallys. It talks about my gesturing, and it gives me feedback while I'm doing it.
I can put it on my Xbox?
You could play it on your Xbox, sort of, yes.
How do you quantify presentation skills?
It's an algorithm. So we obviously have certain things that we measure when we're training people. And what we've done is we've developed an algorithm that says if you do certain things, it's taking away from the message that you're communicating to your audience. So it enables you to get a score for it.
How do you score that, such as gestures? If I'm gesturing, I'm not gesturing, I've got eye contact,
So-
I don't have eye contact. How do you put a quantitative measure on these?
What we're doing is we're looking at it over a period of time. So how many of these things are you doing? What are the good things that you're doing? And what are the less than good things that you're doing? So if I give a 5-minute presentation and I spend the entire presentation with my arms crossed like this, or I spend the whole time looking down here, or my voice is quiet like this, it's going to impact my score. It's almost like a game. It's taking points away from my score so that overall, over that period of time, we see what you've done and what your score is.
I understand that, but who says what's good and what's not good?
That's always the question that we get. It's a combination of our own expertise, and we've obviously looked at scientific research as well.
What sort of intellectual property protection do you have for your product?
We have filed a patent for the communication between the sensor and the software and the hardware. And what we've done, it's all about measuring what you're doing. So looking at the sensor, measuring what you're doing, and how it's recorded through an algorithm. So we have filed that patent.
Well, I just want to comment that you did pass your own test. You did well. So.
Thank you. I appreciate
It's well
that.
for your product.
I appreciate that.
Any other questions from the panel? David?
No, I was just going to say, I'm out, but it's a qualified out, and I sort of want to make a point in it. There's a great accelerator in town called Learn Launch, and one of the things that it's done is provided a great opportunity for the ed tech-oriented companies to participate in their program. And the negative side of that is that people like me, at least, get lazy when they see an ed tech company, and it's very easy for me to say, go talk to Jean Hammond and her buddies at Learn Launch. I'll let them do the assessment, so leveraging their expertise, and the cream will rise to the crop there, and we'll look at the top companies in Learn Launch from an ed tech perspective. Same for the life sciences presentation, Mass Medical Angels, and all of you ought to be segmenting the market so that you know if you're a software-oriented company, you go to Common, if you're life sciences, you go to Mass Mutual, ed tech, you go to Learn Launch.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, I'm out in the same, I'd go to Jean Hammond, who is an expert in that area. and could provide much more expertise than I could.
Great, thank you.
Bill?
I like sort of freestanding products that don't depend on a lot of other X factors to succeed. So you're kind of in the facilitating space. So I'm out.
Thank you.
Panelists, you did a wonderful job today. Thank you very much. We are done.